Good morning, students. My name is Sanmarie Steenkamp, and I will be doing the presentation, the examination-based presentation for the Diploma in Education Secondary for the subject Life Skills 1. I hope you are all doing well today, and we will go through the study guide and through certain topics and subjects in your study guide, which will guide you when you are doing or preparing for your examinations. So when we look at the outline of the study guide, we see that there are 5 units. Unit 1 being the National Syllabus Guidelines for Life Skills, grade 8 to 12. Unit 2, the factors involved in teaching life skills. Unit 3, career aspects of life skills. 4, teaching healthcare issues. And 5, teaching sexual issues. So when we look at Unit 1, I just want to emphasize that in each unit I will only be touching on some topics which might or might not be included in your examinations. So make sure that you are very well familiar with each unit in your study guide. So I take out just the most important things. So when we look at Unit 1, we will be looking at the rationale behind having life skills as a subject for grade 8 to 12. So what is life skills about? It is about teaching learners and enabling them to find meaning in life. So the intention of the program is to focus on the development of learners through a holistic approach. And with that, the life skills curriculum is based on the concept of holistic education. So holistic means to include everything when we look at education. So it's a very open-minded type of way of learning and teaching. While it is realized that the development of learners will continue, it is expected that upon completion of the life skills program for grade 10 specifically, learners should have an idea of who they are, in other words, their identity. They should be able to apply what they have learned when they make decisions. They should be able to function effectively and be socially responsible and have basic career knowledge. The nature and use of learner portfolios in the life skills for learning and assessment purposes. Now, as you know, you need to have a portfolio for each of the learners that you teach life skills to. So we have the portfolios, and they are to remain within the class, so they don't go home with the learner. You should keep them in a safe place, and inside, all the written work and activities that you have done with the learners should be placed. A learner portfolio should be developed for each phase of the learners and be available at all times for parents or your department head or your principal to look at. It provides evidence of the learner's personal growth. The main cross-curricular issues that are integrated throughout the curriculum in all phases in this syllabus guidelines is HIV and AIDS, human rights and democracy, population, education, and information technology. So when we talk about cross-curricular, it means that these topics or issues are covered in not only life skills, but also in other subjects at school. So there's an overlap. The approach to teaching and learning is based on the paradigm of interactive, learner-centered education, described in the ministerial policy documents and curriculum guides. The aim is thus to develop skills, attitudes, and learning with understanding. And learners learn best when they are actively involved in all the activities and learning processes. The teacher must be able to sense the needs of the learners, the nature of the learning to be done, and how to shape the learning experiences accordingly. We move on to the types of assessment that you can use, and this is also for grade 12 to 11, straight through. So we get the formative assessment and the continuous assessment. So basically the formative assessment, as the name implies, is observations that you made or make through the collected materials that you have. So it's both to guide the learner and to help shape and direct the teaching learning process. Continuous assessment should be kept as simple as possible. And here it's important to note that in grade 11, learners will only be assessed during the first and second term of the continuous assessment mark. So that's not in the third term. Then the methods that we use to assess learners is the formal and informal. Now you can always just look at the names of those and it will guide you in terms of what exactly it entails. So informal assessment is based on observation of the learner's learning progress. So investigation, interpreting, applying information, communication, making value judgments, and in respect of their general participation. So you as a teacher really need to watch each and every child in your class to see how they are progressing throughout the year, and then make an informed decision from that in terms of assessment. Formal assessment consists of tasks and activities that have been designed for a specific purpose of assessing certain competencies. So the results of the learner's performance on tasks are recorded. Performance and projects and tasks will be selected, graded, and recorded. Okay, so this is a more specific type of assessment taking place. We move on to Unit 2, which is about the factors involved in teaching life skills. So the first topic that we look at is the socio-economic and educational barriers to motivational attitudes towards learning. So that is quite a long heading. We will break it down a little bit. So when we talk about motivation, it's the willingness of the learner to learn, and that is dependent on their level of motivation. Maslow's hierarchy of school needs, a learner has 5 essential needs that must be met in order to feel fully motivated. So there you can see there is the hierarchy. So it starts with physiology, safety, love and belonging, self-esteem, and self-actualization. So you work your way from the bottom to the top. So when we look at socio-economic and educational barriers, it's a mix of the social, as the word says, social and economic or financial factors that would together prevent the learner to feel motivated to learn. So a few mentioned here is the lack of nutrition. So if the child does not have good, healthy and balanced diet or food to eat, a lack of clothing, a lack of a safe home environment, a lack of a safe place to sleep, financial problems, and a society that thinks going to school is unnecessary because children should work on the family farm. So that's just a few that's mentioned. You can read further up in your book, the study guide, I mean. All right, concentration of learners is boosted if lesson topics are converted into questions. So this is just a little bit of guidance also when it comes to motivations and lack of concentration. So those things that can contribute to learners being distracted is the internal sources and the external sources. So I'm just going to go back to that one. So internal sources could be the physical factors and the psychological factors. So a child might be tired because they don't sleep well at night. They might not eat well, which has an effect on their body, and also if they lack some exercise, if they constantly sit in front of the TV or play games on their phone, then they will struggle to concentrate. Psychological factors might include boredom, daydreaming, and overload of work. When we look at the external sources, that could be noise. The TV is too loud, so they cannot concentrate on their work. Phone that they might be playing on, the internet, and the email. So technology seems to play a huge role in the concentration of learners. So now we have to look at how we can capture learners' attention when we are doing lessons. So we have non-verbal techniques that we can use as teachers and verbal techniques. So with the nonverbal, so that would be a lot about body language, voice, and things like that. Speak confidently and clearly and at the pace that learners can follow. Stand up, walk around, and use actions to show you are interested in the lesson. Look learners in the eye, observe what they are doing. So this is all about engaging with your learner. If you're just going to sit behind your desk and talk in a monotonous voice, there's a very good chance that learners will become bored, they won't listen, and they won't show any interest in what you are saying. Verbal techniques would include dividing the class into teams and keep scores on who answer more questions correctly. So this creates a little bit of competition among the learners, which also tickles their interest. Ask trick questions and see who can work it out. And also have a sense of humor. Make a joke every now and then. Right. We quickly look at the role of character values, which are an extremely important aspect in life skills and need to be taught throughout the year. One does not have to have one lesson, but you can refer back to this, as this is sort of underlying of any learner's personal growth. So some of them that they mention here is trust, respect, responsibility, fairness, care, and citizenship. One that they do not mention here that I have noticed, maybe they mention it further in the study guide, is that of integrity, which is also extremely important and can fall with each and every one of these character values. So when a learner lacks any of these values, they may face a hard time at school. All of the characteristics, in fact, work together, and when any one is out of place, it can be very easy for learners to feel unmotivated to learn, but also to be in school. So as you can see, they also overlap, they go together. If one is not balanced, then it might have an effect on all the other values. So we move on to effective skills for getting an overview of the examinations. So this is for learners to prepare themselves for examinations in all other subjects. And also for you when you prepare for the exam. So as you are in the examination hall or wherever you write your examination, first thing you want to do is to page through the paper and get an overview of how the paper was set up. You read the questions carefully at least twice before you start answering. Highlight any keywords that give instruction or guidance on how to answer the question. This is extremely important because this happens often in the examination papers where learners or students miss what exactly is being asked. So this goes together with Bloomberg's verbs that you really need to know. You need to understand what each of them means. Otherwise, you will not answer the question correctly. Jot down any key ideas you may have that can answer the question. Look at the mark allocation and decide how long your answer needs to be. This is also a frequent thing that happens where students or learners would write 5 pages and then the question count like 5 points. Make sure that what you write down is in line with the marks allocated. We move on to Unit 3, which is career aspects of life skills. So here we're going to look at the characteristic traits and competencies that employers look for in modern employees. So what they look for is intelligence. So you need to be bright, you need to know what you are talking about. They want honesty, skills, work ethic, flexibility, determination, and working abilities. The different jobs require different levels of education. So in the study guide, they mention 8 categories of education levels that workers typically need to enter an occupation. So when we look at those 8, they also work from or in order from 1 to 8. So number 1 is less than high school. So it might be that you have grade 10. High school without NSSC. Number 3, NSSC. 4 is some college but no degree. 5 is an associate degree, which is also known as a diploma, bachelor's degree, master's degree, and doctoral or professional degree. We have a quick look at the value of part-time jobs and job shadowing to support decisions around job choices. And we look specifically at the benefits of a part-time job, which can include gaining career readiness skills to increase your knowledge about that specific job, establish a work history and connections, develop an understanding of different occupations, earn spending money and learn how to handle it, develop responsibility, develop time management skills, and also overcome shyness. Right, so there are a lot of benefits to having a part-time job. The learner's responsibility when they are doing job shadowing is to prepare in advance for questions to be asked during the shadowing, to be punctual and dress accordingly, be attentive and observe as much as possible, and not be shy to ask any questions. Follow the shadowing up with a letter of thanks. Write a report on your shadowing experience as soon as possible after you have finished the job shadowing. Please note that I only touch on these, so you really do need to go and read up to make sure that if this question is asked in the exam, that you give full and complete answers. So when we look at a job application form, there are some tips that is very important to make sure that your application is not thrown out because it is incomplete. So take your time when you fill in an application. Don't leave it until the last minute to hand in, because then you will miss some essential information. Read all the questions and gather the information before you write it in to answer these questions. Make copies of the form and you can practice to fill it out. You can ask for help if you are unsure, and once you are confident, fill out the original form very neatly. Unit 4, we look at teaching healthcare issues and features of a healthy lifestyle. So a healthy lifestyle requires a person to get adequate sleep, eat nutritional diet, exercise, and most importantly, to balance all of these. So when we look at emotional growth, it's something that we need to improve on, to grow in, so we can deal with the world, with the people in the world, and also how we manage our lifestyles. A person that has not grown emotionally, which we can call emotionally immature, will send out streams of freely expressed opinions and thoughts without considering the impact this can have on those around them. To grow emotionally, we need to recognize the thoughts and emotions that we think and feel and become aware of the impact that it might have on others. We also look at spiritual growth. So spiritual growth is about how we grow in knowing our God, to know God's ways and God's plan for us. It does not simply mean in terms of religion, but it can also be within ourselves. So it can refer to meditation and thinking about events that have passed and that is still to come. Learners can counteract these things by taking the time out to think, reflect, and plan. So having some alone time, some time to be still and just go through what your purpose on this earth is also extremely important to be a healthy individual. Now we look at malnutrition, also in Unit 4, and we look at the impact of malnutrition. So malnutrition would be not to have a healthy diet, not to be able to eat all of the food groups that should be included to have a balanced diet, and the impact that it has on a learner. So one of the big things is weight loss, low mood, reduced mobility. So mobility means to be able to move around, an increased risk of falling, a reduced independence, infections, and confusion. So this would be the severe impacts of malnutrition. We move on to the causes, symptoms, and spread of tuberculosis in Namibia. So TB, or tuberculosis, the scientific name, which I'm not going to pronounce correctly, is tuberculosis, and it mainly affects the lungs, but can also affect the liver, sexual organs, bones, and urinary tract. Symptoms that we find symptoms of tuberculosis includes a bad cough lasting for more than 2 weeks, coughing up blood and phlegm, pain in the chest, tiredness or fatigue, and then also weight loss. We now move on to how young people can deal with peer pressure when it comes to drinking and smoking. So peer pressure is a common experience for young people, and they are easily influenced by peers they have around them. Peer pressure occurs when somebody tries to convince another person that they should do something or take part in a certain activity or show behavior in order for them to be socially accepted. However, peer pressure is not only negative and can also be positive. So, handling peer pressure. Some worldwide common examples of negative peer pressure are the pressure to try drugs, alcohol, or cigarettes, pressure to have sex, either by a partner or by friends. Examples of positive peer pressure may be the encouragement to stop smoking, the pressure to stop any illegal activities such as undertaking, drinking, or drug taking. So how can learners handle negative peer pressure without feeling cut off from their peers? Humor is an extremely powerful method to use. So you can use that to deflect attention from yourself onto something else or someone else without being mean. You can talk privately to the person putting the pressure on you and explain to them exactly how you feel about being pressured. Unit 5, the last unit. When we look at this unit, it is about teaching sexual issues, and then in general, what is sexuality? So it refers to the way in which a person views themselves as a man or a woman. There are many aspects that fall under sexuality, such as feelings, beliefs, values, fantasies, and behavior. This is the gender-breed person. So this shows us how complex sexuality and gender identity can be. So in your study guide you will find this picture. Make sure that you have a good understanding of this picture. It shows that nothing is set in stone, nothing is specifically black or white, and that one needs to look at the gray areas. So with the arrows, you can see the arrow can go on forever and ever. Okay, it does not stop at some point. All right. So discussing the statement, women are the stronger gender, not men. When we look at the term gender, it would refer to the characteristics and roles, ideas, values, and attitudes a person may have because they are male or female. So gender roles are directly linked to society and its beliefs. Culturally, men are said to be stronger than women. However, there seem to be a few points that we need to consider before we make our own decision as to which is the stronger gender. And also, I think what we do need to ask ourselves is, why do we need to find one gender stronger than the other gender? However, let's quickly have a look at women. Normally lives 6 to 7 years longer than men. Women have the strength to birth babies. Women have immune systems that are significantly stronger. Women score higher in IQ tests, and women are 3.4 times less likely to drive badly. Although I'm sure there will be some who will debate these facts. Right, so what is the purpose of sex? The purpose of sex is multifaceted and has been complicated over the years. Sometimes something beautiful has become a fascination that has led to broken homes, marriages, and people. But the purpose of sex is threefold. So it can be to have a relationship, for procreation, and also for pleasure. And all of these things will rely on what your core values are as a person. Now we move on to pre-test counseling, and this is for HIV, pre-test and post-test counseling. Before attending counseling, people wanting to be tested are normally given material to read regarding HIV and AIDS, and this is used to prepare themselves for the realities of HIV. So counselors who do the pre-test counseling may ask the questions such as, do you or have you ever had unprotected sex? Is your partner HIV positive? Do you use any drugs, or do you share any needles if you do use drugs? The counselor will, after these questions, educate a little bit around HIV and explain how it is spread, explain how the procedure will be done and the confidentiality policy, will explain the implications of a positive test result, ask you a little bit about your support system, your family and your friends, and ask how a positive result will affect your life. They will also find out how you would prefer to inform your partner or partners if the result is positive. And lastly, they will try their best to answer all of your questions.